South Africans are slowly coming to terms with the effects of load shedding, business continue to suffer the most due to Eskom not sticking to its load shedding schedule, and sudden jumps between the different load shedding stages is making it difficult to plan ahead for business. According to a survey conducted by the South African Labour Research Institute, the continued blackouts have put a strain on the clothing, textile, footwear and leather sector. The survey found that as a result of load shedding, 17% of workers surveyed have been put on short time, and many factories are making a much smaller profit. A further 14% of workers are facing the possibility of short time in the very near future. Now, from our studios in Durban, we are joined by the Southern African Clothing and Textile Workers Union's Deputy General Secretary, Chris Gina. Very good morning to you, Chris. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning to you and the listeners.
Chris, the picture looks a little bit bleak. Is that accurate? Can you just give us your views on it?
The load shedding has actually caused quite a lot of problems to our members. It is true that the research which has been conducted by our department does actually reflect that there's a quite high number of companies that are affected by load shedding. And to that, most of the companies in the clothing sector are not really big companies who can afford to buy generators, are much more small, medium actually enterprise. These companies have experienced an extensive loss of hours. As a consequence of that, quite a lot of our members have suffered a short-time layoff, and it is actually a problem.
Now, there talks of further job cuts in the sector. Is that the case? And if it is so, how do you see this pan out?
I think what we have done as an industry was that I think to complain and to mourn is not going to actually help us. We need to look at what should be the alternatives that we can put in place in the industry. At a policy level, through the bargaining council, the trade union and the employers, we have concluded an agreement that allows a framework agreement that allows companies to negotiate alternatives. For example, workers and the employer can sit down at a factory level and say, we have lost so many hours between Monday and Friday. Is it possible that we can enter into an agreement that can allow us to work between Saturday to Sunday and balance the loss of hours that has been experienced in previous months?
And these discussions, are you having these discussions with Eskom? I also see that the Fashion Imbizo in Cape Town, you invited Eskom to be part of the Imbizo. Have they honoured this invite?
Yeah, it was a very successful Imbizo that was held yesterday in Cape Town, where all stakeholders actually presented the ideas as to how we can actually minimize the impact of load shedding. ITC actually offered the alternatives that the industry can actually tap in, and also other stakeholders also offered some alternatives. I think it was more of like, what should be the alternatives that actually the industry can utilize rather than to sit and scream and cry. But all what we need to do now as an industry or as a country is to look at alternatives rather than actually to complain. For example, the framework agreement that we've concluded at an industry level is very useful. I've actually done some follow-up in some of the factories where shop steward and the employers have negotiated alternatives of hours that can be lost in the events that there is actually load shedding.
That's right. We need to come up with solutions. We have a problem. I want to ask you, in conclusion, quickly. Yesterday, I just want to talk wages quickly. I saw an 8.5% wage increment in the cotton textile and 7.5% in the handbag leather sector. What's your reaction to these deals? Are you happy?
Actually, we're very proud, and our members are very proud that in 2014, we actually entered into what we call a long-term agreement. And that long-term agreement is that 8% is the effect of the agreement that we've entered with the employers in cotton of 8.5%. And you look at where the inflation rate is trading currently, and you look at the increase that the members are getting, it does actually reflect a living wage, a campaign that we all actually geared for as Labour.
Chris, thank you for joining us. It is an emotive issue for all South Africans, how load shedding, the lack of electricity, is affecting output, is affecting production, is affecting productivity. Anyhow,